There we go.
This is the Community Affairs Committee special meeting, Tuesday, August 22nd. Any public comments related to the agenda items? Hey,
Judy Allen, excuse me, Judy Allen, West Hartford. I'm speaking about agenda item 4, community outreach, and I'm not sure exactly what the focus of the conversation is about outreach, but kind of thinking about an idea that was brought up at another meeting about having a dedicated website for the projects going on in North Hartford. I did look at what's currently on the website, and it doesn't give enough up-to-date, here's what's happening, here's what has happened information. And I think people would enjoy knowing more about that than things like funding sources and stuff. So thank you.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Judy, for your comment. Any other public comments? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2023. Thank you. All those in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Our first discussion is going to be regarding community outreach. I would like to introduce Butler and Corinne Moody. They are the outreach workers on the project for the North End flooding. Janice, can you?
Yeah, don't you guys sit
Come
up
up?
front?
Yeah.
Sit at the table. Julie, yeah, come on.
Come on, Julie.
Angel.
Angel.
You want us to sit here?
Yeah, wherever you like.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, if you ladies and Angel could just introduce yourselves and know what your role is.
Okay. Janice Fleming Butler. I am the coordinator on the sewer project. My role is to engage and act as a liaison between you all and the community and assist the CEO in problem-solving matters at the state and the municipal and community level.
Right.
Corinne Moody, good evening. I want to echo everything Janice just stated. I believe we both have, just for folks who don't realize, we both have history working with the Clean Water Project and are familiar with many of the programs and practices that the district has implemented in the past 10, 15 years.
And if I may,
Through me?
through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted, I thought it was a good time to introduce our two outreach teams. As you may remember, the past 2008 to 2013, when we were doing a lot of separation work, so we were busy. We had 5 or 6 projects going on off of Albany Avenue, Sigourney Street, and all those projects, which was very chaotic. So we actually had 4 teams at the time, helping staff, Julie and Nick, and now Angel, helping us be able to communicate directly with the community. And these 2 individuals actually live in the community that we're serving, right? So, and besides that, they actually have done this before during that time frame of 2008 to 2013. So the dynamics here are different. As we all know, we're in election year, so there's a lot going on in Hartford, and that's why these 2 individuals, they live in the community, they understand the community, and when we have issues, even more complicated, we just had a meeting with Janice came with us to meet with the comptroller. We're working together with the comptroller because there's this $5 million flood relief grant fund that the legislature and the governor has signed. And we have a role legislatively. We are going to be providing an inspector that will actually inspect the home and determine if flooding has occurred and if they're eligible for some of this $5 million. Chris, myself, the chairman went to a meeting. This is our second meeting we had just the other day. So Janice and Corinne will be helping us communicate our role. Our role is very simple. The application process for this program is through the comptroller. They handle the entire project. The only thing our job is to help communicate the program through our normal interaction with our customers, and then we will provide the comptroller information so that they can properly assess the applications. The MDC is going to follow the normal processes for our communication as it relates to our projects. That's what they're here for. Our project areas, we need to communicate with the people that we're working on their streets, the businesses that work on the streets. That's their overall job. But we will be helping and assisting in communicating the program that the comptroller is organizing and managing through Dr. Rule, which they have hired to manage and make determinations on whether or not flooding has occurred or hasn't occurred. The issues that are I think these two individuals are very aware of. As we know, we talk about flooding and we talk about sewage backups as if it's the same thing. And one rule and one goal for these two individuals is to help MDC communicate to our customer that we can solve sewage backing up into your home with our backwater valve program and our sump pump program and our separation work. The ultimate goal of separation across the district, across the Hartford area, will be to eliminate any potential for backups from any kind of sewage in your home. But right now, our goal is get into the homes, talk to the community, talk to the business leaders, talk to the NRZs, educate them on what we're trying to do, what we can do in the short term, what we can do in the long term, but what we can't do, right? What we can't do is we can't solve the street flooding that's occurring. We can assist, we can help. Long-term planning with separation work will help that. But that's their role. And we just thought it was a good opportunity for you to talk to this group to see what they're doing. And I think it's a really great opportunity. Janice, you want to just talk about some of the things, and Corinne, what you've just some of the communication you've had with the community since we signed your contract, which was 3 weeks ago, whatever it was.
Thank you for allowing me to go speak before you. I can use an example as soon as today. I was invited to a meeting that Congressman Larson was having at 2550 Main Street to talk about Route 84 and 91, and Hartford Communities That Care also had on the agenda flood and water and sewer separation. I will tell you, Scott, in the beginning, I was like, all right, we're going to be able to let them know that it's a separate thing. And I think you were right in really pushing that there's this real distinction that is made clear in what MDCs and others are doing on that role, and it became clear today. Bridget Price was at this meeting as well, along with representatives from Blue Hills Civic Association. And Bridget negated away from the conversation about the highways and wanted to focus on the sewer and the water. And she asked Larson, would they be able to help at that level to get things paid for? They're concerned about the $5 million running out really quickly, the issue you raised yesterday. So all of that came up, and then she says, Janice, and I want to talk to you about those flooding dollars and what you guys are going to do when the dollars run out. Last week, this conversation, while I was supposed to be on vacation, came up and I answered them all on calls. But today, they wanted to have this meeting in person. And I told her, as Blue Hills sat silently, Vicky Fennell was actually at this meeting and she sat silently, never said that they were in charge of the flood mitigation part of the project and the grants. And I simply said, well, Vicky Fennell from Blue Hills would be better equipped to answer the questions about what the flood grant dollars look like. However, in fairness to Blue Hills Civic Association, I met with the comptrollers in regards to our sewage program, and they had informed us that they hadn't been ready to put them out and that Blue Hills would receive training. So Blue Hills has not, Bridget, no one has received the flood applications, because you had tenants this morning at this meeting worried. One of the things I think we may have to address, well, the comptroller office will have to address, is they was concerned about the site being at the Colin Bennett building for complaints and concerns and answers in Northeast residents who don't have transportation and broadband services and all of this other stuff that I raised actually yesterday will have the same type of access. So, I think it is important that we make the distinction on what role we play and that we help them along with giving them Blue Hills information when that time's come around flood mitigation. I did send an email to Julie suggesting that maybe all of the members of the outreach team in the community understand what role each person is playing. Because I know personally that the young man who does the construction work for MDC is out doing his job, because I go to meetings and they tell me, Jeff, excuse me, but they still haven't understood what Jeff's role is in terms of the minority hiring. Because again, this morning, that came up where they're going to be expecting a list from us of the number of minorities that's being hired on each project. It came up about Attorney Stone offering to produce some weekly reports in regards to the number of folks, if there's Hartford residents. And in addition, it was asked that we provide the number of people who have already received sewer backup VAS systems or whatever they're called. And do we have a list of people who are projected to receive those services?
And just to clarify, so we have to get our job done, right? That's what this group is for. But we're very concerned about this program that was created by the legislature, which most people, as Janice is saying, they think it's us. Right. We're not involved in this program. This flooding program, this $5 million is being run by the comptroller's office, and they have hired Blue Hills Civic. So the confusion for the community, and that's what Janice and Corinne are going to do, is to try and make sure everybody understands and reiterate, that's not us. If you have a flooding issue and you have damage associated with a flood since January of 21, you have to go to the comptroller's office, and Blue Hills Civic will be helping you fill out the applications, facilitate. The only thing we're going to be doing is providing the comptroller information about, for example, if we go to a home and it's been surcharged and it was our fault and we pay out some amount for cleaning the basements, we're going to provide that information to the comptroller so they have it. So that way, the comptroller is very concerned about, they don't want to pay twice. They don't want to be dealing with a customer that's getting compensated from the MDC and then asking for the same amount of money from the comptroller. So we're working together. We're actually going to give the comptroller's office our wet weather protocol, so they'll know when the bad weather's coming. They're going to get all the information about our backwater valves, what's installed, what's not installed, and let them know who calls us in a storm, so they have all of that information. But the most important part is providing a very distinctive line between what we're doing in the field on Durham Street. We're trying to build a new sewer system on Durham Street. We're trying to get into 26 homes to put in backwater valves, and that's our job. But we'll also provide and hand out the flyers that the comptroller's office have provided in terms of this application for flood, and say, if you want to talk to someone, call Blue Hill Civic. We don't want to see Blue Hill Civic trying to interject themselves in our outreach associated with our construction project. So we're really focused.
You, Madam Chair, excuse me, or even not make clear to the community that it's actually not MDC who's doing the flood mitigation. Like I found that
Very
interesting.
important. So our communication has gotten complicated, even more so because of this program, but it's okay. We're working with comptroller. They've been very helpful. We had a meeting the other day talking about processes and making sure that everybody's on board. We did say to the comptroller's office staff yesterday, we said, we're very concerned because you got $5 million and we're aware of 3 claims that could probably eat up the entire $5 million. So it would be a shame to see the program open up on September 1st and then close on September 7th.
It's going to be an issue.
It's going to be a major issue. But that's what we're working on.
Chairman?
Yeah. Also, there's relative to MDC, the inspectors will be shared, the cost will be shared by, not shared, by the comptroller's office.
They will reimburse us, correct?
There's certain things that we are going to be part of that will be reimbursed through the comptroller's office.
Yes. And
Is the issue that we've got to identify also, so that people understand.
yeah, so we have, yes, so the legislation mandated that we provide an inspector, adjuster, inspector, insurance type person, which we don't have in-house. So we recommended to the comptroller's office that we hire and they hire, and now the property owner can hire the same person or someone like that person. It will be a licensed Department of Consumer Protection home inspector. So they're licensed. Just anybody who would come and do an inspection on your home, if you're doing a closing, they do a full inspection on your home. That's the kind of person, a licensed individual that we are going to be hiring. And again, Janice and Crane, you want to talk about how you're helping us recruit?
So in my other hat, I deal a lot with homeowners and the process of purchasing. So we have a number of home inspectors, building officials who we've worked with in the past, who I reached out to and basically asked were they interested in this opportunity. And so just wanted to fill out who's available, possibilities, and then be able to present it in a report and say, these are some viable candidates that you can look at.
And that's
I will add to this, Scott, because when Corinne and I was working on this, I want to let everybody know that Scott tasked us with ensuring we can find someone from North Hartford who was an inspector so we can be uniform and address some of the concerns that Commissioner Holloway was having in terms of representation of North Hartford and so forth. We went through an extensive list, and Corinne even had to make some calls in Florida. And yeah, beyond a good faith expert, we're talking about me, Madam Chair. And of that list, there's only 3 that really can make the cut. But I think what Corinne and I, in our meeting before this, to flesh this out, because what I learned yesterday, how this is going to be a situation where the guy or the girl the inspector only goes when someone's needs an inspection on their house, and it's not like this full thing. You're going to find people who have jobs already and may not, right? So you're going to need like a rotation of these 3. I don't think it can just be one of them. Am I correct, Corinne?
I mean, what I find is usually And, you know, usually you're working with the customer schedule. That's one, and there's other people involved. So in order for the process to run smoothly, you want to have more than one viable candidate, a strong person that you can actually get through the properties in a timely manner. I would say last week I did get briefed by the PMs and outreach regarding Durham, and the sewer separation is supposed to start soon. So for our team, our priority is because Durham is in Blue Hills neighborhood. We want to be proactive before the project actually starts in terms of the separation. They're out there doing water main work, but before that, we want to start knocking on doors and explaining and communicating. This is the comptroller. This is Blue Hills. This is flooding. This is where you go for that. And this is what we're actually outlining underneath the district of what this project looks like.
And this inspector, to add to that, Green, this inspector, again, this is the flooding program for the comptroller, not for our project, right? But we are tasked with legislation that we will provide an inspector, license. We're going to utilize licensed inspectors, and their role in the flooding program with the comptroller's office is to determine if it truly was damage at the property caused by flooding, right? So the comptroller's office is just as concerned as us is getting scammed. They want this money to go as far as it can. They want it to be legitimate. So the person that goes out and does that inspection will simply determine, was it truly damage caused by flooding? Yes or no? And then the comptroller's office is actually going through an RFP process to hire an adjuster, like Travelers or some insurance company, and they'll actually determine the value of the cost associated with the damage. And they'll also be the ones to determine whether or not if they deny the claim, it's their decision. If they approve the claim and then there's an appeal because they don't think it's enough money, it'll all be done by the comptroller.
Mr. Chairman, flooding, did they identify what causes or simply any flooding, irrespective of any reasoning?
So the way they've explained it to us, Commissioner, and I think our legal agree, the program for the 5 million is for flooding. They've even told us that if it's flooding associated with the MDC, like sewer backup, it's still covered. And that's why we're going to provide. So as you know, we have 3 levels of claims. Active God, it rains really hard, it floods a basement, but nothing broke, no blockage, then we don't pay anything. If it's a blockage in the sewer system, or it collapses, or a water main break, we make the home habitable, right? So we replace the boiler, replace whatever we need to make the house livable. And then if there's liability, like what happened on Lynbrook in West Hartford, where the contractor did something wrong, then we're liable for everything. But whatever we do and whatever we pay out, we're going to provide that information to the comptroller. They're going to have the same information. They won't pay twice. And we're being told that we will be reimbursed whatever we pay out. So we'll have to work out those details with the comptroller's office. But right now, we're just trying to get organized amongst the state and ourselves so that we understand roles and responsibilities, who's doing what, and who's communicating with who.
Madam Chair, if I may, just to address Commissioner's point a little.
State funds.
If I might, Commissioner, I just want to respond to your question about flooding. Chris Stone, District Council. And the best way to explain it is by example. So if someone's water heater breaks and it floods the basement, and water goes into the basement, that's not flooding. If someone puts something down their toilet and it causes the toilet back up, that's not flooding.
Right.
We're talking about external events that cause flooding within the house. So it's rain, stormwater, combination of sewage and groundwater, those type of things. Those are flooding events that the Office of the State Controller, not the MDC, but the Office of State Controller has made a determination that those are the events that fall under this program.
The flooding is caused by, let's say, lack of maintenance in the house, in the pipes.
That's not flooding.
If the roof is open and flooding takes place. All these things could be defined right now, otherwise this program will continue on and keep haunting MDC in the future.
And that's why the Office of State Controller is taking the lead on determining which type of events fall under their program, not the MDC. We'll state the facts. Here's what happened, as to the best we can determine through the inspector that we retain and get reimbursed for. But once the facts are related to the administrator of the program, it's up to him or her, right now it's a him, Dr. Rule, whether or not that event constitutes flooding as contemplated by that office for this program, not the MDC.
And we don't want to be involved. We don't want to be to make the decision. It's their decision. The only thing we care about, Commissioner, is everything that we do now we'll continue to do. So, for example, Mrs. Jones has flooding in her basement, and it's caused by just groundwater. We get a phone call from Mrs. Jones. We go out to the site like we would always do. We make a determination. It's coming from groundwater. It's not our problem. We document that. We send it to the comptroller's office. We want to make sure that when Mrs. Jones calls and applies for the flooding, that we don't have her say it was the sewer that backed up in her basement. And so we're documenting real time, and the application process of the comptroller might take days, weeks. So, but we'll, in a lot of cases, be at that home well before an application is filled out by a resident submitting it to the comptroller.
Corain and Janice, thank you. I know community work can be very difficult, especially at an election time. All the characters come out.
Definitely.
So I just want to thank you so much because I know how difficult it is.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple of general questions about the issue of flooding. And now I think we've made it very clear that MDC is not going to be able to prevent storm situations. However, the environment's going to continue to change. It's not going to stop at this point in time. Some of the significant issues that we do deal with and are going to have to deal with as a city, as the MDC, is the whole question of the dike.
Right.
The dike is an issue that we've been dealing with for the last 10 years, Scott, relative to the vulnerability of that dike when the river gets to, 60 feet? 60 feet?
No, 30 feet.
I'm sorry, 30 feet. The hydraulic boiling, which means hydraulically the water goes under the dike and the footings collapse and the dike collapses. We've dealt with the Army Corps of Engineers, we've dealt with Washington, and we're still in the same position. We are extremely vulnerable. And as we watch the events of the rest of the country, as far as Hawaii, the environment is definitely changing and it's going to continue to escalate. We're at a very vulnerable point there. In the event that that boiling or the collapse of the dike happens because of the 30-foot level of the river, we're looking at 25% of the city's grand list being underwater. We are also looking at a definite significant part of our South Meadows operation, almost all of it, Scott, being underwater.
Yeah, and 91 closed.
91 closed, and you're talking about a situation where, in my opinion, there is still liability for the state of Connecticut through the Department of Transportation. We've never seen what the reality of an issue was. When they dropped the 91, they took out the earth barrier on the west side of the dike, the city side of the dike. They should have replaced that by driving sheeting down 75 feet, Scott, is it? 75 feet to preclude this boiling happening. And it never was done. And the issue was raised and never validated that cause was that the city of Hartford was supposed to drive the sheeting down. why would the city of Hartford be responsible for the sheeting on the highway when it would have fallen under an interstate highway, the 80-20 subsidy from the federal government? We get no subsidy and didn't get any subsidy as the Metropolitan District Commission because that was eliminated in 1977 by Washington. So I can't understand why it would not have fallen under the federal highway funding, where you're getting 80% from the federal government, 20% from local. And I think that's an issue that we've got to continue to look at. And we're also talking about building some kind of a walking way around the dike. Is that not part of Riverfront Recapture's new strategy?
Through you, Madam Chair, it came up today in the infrastructure meeting. I think you're on to something, Chairman, because I think that conversation came up and it's making it really a conversation that it still drags MDC into the flood mitigation conversation as it relates to the rivers, right? So this morning, when I made clear our role in this project for the sewer system, the next question was, well, MDC still has a role in flood mitigation along with the city as it relates to the dikes and the rivers. And so I think to your point, there is still conversations to be had. With my scope of services as it relates to this project, I just want to kind of create some distance from the flood conversation to sewage, but you will have to deal with that conversation because it's still part of the conversation as I'm distancing us for the sewer separation.
It's significant to the fact that
Absolutely.
the actual physical situation with the environment is not getting better. It's going to get worse. It's going to mitigate. It's not being mitigated to a point that it's going to solve the problem. What do we figure that was about $100 million?
It was $100 million. Well, it was 100 and change, and that includes East Hartford. But East Hartford has done a lot of work, so it's about just about $90 million for this.
Well, if there's any time to have the conversation with DOT, Madam Chair knows this firsthand, it would be right now, given the concepts of infrastructure that they building around 8491 in neighborhoods. I don't really understand how you have an infrastructure whole meeting concepts and everything without water. In fact, probably about 6 months ago, I had DOT reach out to MDC in regards to this because I was concerned when we were seeing the concepts over at the Voices that it would impact or in some way the work of MDC. So you guys may want to reach out, given that they already have a whole bunch of new concepts that includes highways and roads that you're actually working on right now.
Yeah. Well, again, Albany Avenue is an example where the state of Connecticut's got an obligation for the stormwater
44.
issue. And there's several of those. North Main Street, the city is doing a streetscape. They've talked to us, at least a delegation. I've discussed it with the CEO about what is transpiring in North Main Street relative to MDC and our ability to deal in that environment with DOT. And I think, Scott, you've had some discussions with DOT.
Yeah, I have a meeting with DOT, not specifically about the dike system, but I have a meeting next week or so regarding Bushnell South and the planning that they're having to bring a highway from Route 2 into Pulaski Circle. So that's a different topic, but very similar.
It's one of the concepts.
It's one of the concepts, and unfortunately, I think DOT is working in a bubble at a planning level without talking to the groups. But we do have Rita, and I just wanted to get it's a little odd that we're going to present. Thank you both very much.
Can
Um,
we finish this discussion?
Yes.
Scott, you're gonna meet with them on one issue.
Yeah.
I think we've got to start talking to them about these other issues because they're relevant to what we're doing here. And I don't know who it's with. I'm sure who you're meeting with is not gonna talk about the highway. But I think we've got to have meetings with DOT to determine what they're doing, what they're thinking about doing on drainage in those streets, and also where we're going with the highway issue. So, you know,
No, we have reached out to DOT on both of those streets.
the Hartford Flood Commission is another one we have to have meetings.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Again, thank you, Corinne and Janice.
Thank you.
Number 5 is Ms. Rita Kelly, a report on affirmative action.
A handout.
So the reason why I've asked Rita to come and talk tonight, because as part of our program in North Hartford, everyone remembers, we do not have to, but we voluntarily offered to comply with something that we've never done before, which is all of our contractors are going to be hiring 30% of their workforce is going to be Hartford-based workforce. We've never, ever done that before. The city of Hartford does that when they fund their own projects. We've also required and made a commitment, a goal to hire as many Hartford-based contractors as we can. And in that conversation, the question has always come up, and what is the MDC doing to hire a minority workforce at the MDC? So it's not just, are you hiring contractors with minority workforce? What about the MDC? So we thought it was a good opportunity for Rita to explain this at the community affairs, and hopefully we can add this to PPI at the next general meeting. Okay?
Scott, again, this is a discussion we've had for several years with DEEP. Is DEEP on board with this issue? Because they have been the one that have objected to MDC adopting this kind of a strategy. And I believe they've now concurred that we can access state money for the purpose of meeting what Hartford's doing, the 60% criteria.
Correct.
They turned us down totally on that for the last, 5 or 6, 8 years that we've asked for.
Okay, all right. Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to present. I want to give an update of the affirmative action program. Our new affirmative action plan will be submitted to the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities August 30th. And hopefully they will review the plan and approve it. They probably will approve it or disapprove it, but hopefully approve it in November. So we should hear something in November. Historically, we have had an approved plan, so I am very optimistic that we will do well. I have a continuing relationship with CHRO in terms of getting input in terms of our affirmative action program to ensure that it is the kind of program that, we could be proud of. Basically, within the plan, what it is, if you were to describe an affirmative action plan, it would almost be a diary of personnel transactions. It looks at hires and promotions, and it establishes goals for hires and promotions in regards to making sure that there is diversity in our workforce that reflects the communities that we live in. So we're in the greater Hartford area. So our workforce should be reflective of the greater Hartford area. So that would be our goal. The plan covers promotions and hires from May 1st, 2022 to April 30th, 2023. Now, in terms of looking at the overall workforce, it is 26% people of color and 20% female. Now, if you do a deeper dive into the numbers and you kind of look at occupational categories, we have areas that have higher concentration of people of color and women than other areas. If you could follow along on the handout that I provided. But if you look at in terms of the highest representation of people of color, you'll find that in our administrative support positions, and those positions would be positions such as customer service representative or senior clerk. 50% of those positions in that occupational category are held by people of color within the district. Now, professional positions are positions that typically require a college education or more advanced education. And within the MDC, if you look at our professional positions, which would be like HR, generalist, or assistant accountant, 29% of the people in those positions are people of color. Now, technical positions, 26% of the people in our workforce in those positions are people of color. Now, when you look at women in the workplace at the district, administrative support positions are 85% women, professional positions are 45% women, and officials administrator positions are 30% women. So we have areas where we're doing very well in terms of diversifying and really promoting opportunity for people, irregardless of their race, or gender. One area, though, that has always created challenges for us is our skilled craft position. And so we're doing targeted recruitment for those positions. Right now, within that category, 24% of the people in that category are people of color. However, we do have substantial goals in that area for individuals who are Black and Hispanic. And so this is one of the areas where we're really interested in doing very expansive recruitment. The community outreach program, I think, is going to be very beneficial to us because there's a lot of ways that we can learn from community outreach in terms of how to broaden our message to people within the communities in terms of what kinds of jobs are available, what kinds of employment opportunities MDC has. Now, one of the problems that we've had with skilled craft is the qualifications, such as you need a CDL for a lot of the positions. So we're looking at these positions, and Jamie might want to say a few words about that in terms of how we're looking at the positions to increase opportunities for people of color and to really connect with the community. But over the last few months, we've really, I feel, expedited, some of the initiatives we've done to attract people, and it's really shown in terms of our numbers. And over the last, year, we've hired, I think, 5 Black males and Hispanic males. So we've really done better in terms of, reaching people and actually getting people to come to work for us. Jamie, do you want to add in terms of our outreach?
Good evening, commissioners. So we're always looking in HR at how do we do things differently, branch out, explore different ways to reach people. Again, I've talked about this, I think, in the past. COVID has changed everything on the recruitment side of the house. So we do have a harder time recruiting, and especially people of color. So we are looking very heavily at some of our entry-level positions. And with the community outreach, obviously Jeff King is very actively involved on the consultant side. HR is going to be very involved on the employee side, where we are trying to build partnerships where we can get people in from technical schools and various programs where we can get people in kind of on the ground up so they can really learn the MDC and then ultimately grow within the MDC and advance to the various opportunities that we have here. So that's probably the biggest focus that we have right now, in addition to things that we had already been doing in terms of trying to make sure we're diversifying in our advertising. We obviously take affirmative action very seriously, and when we are doing recruitments, that is something that we're looking at to make sure we have a diverse group as best as you can. It's not always possible because it's only as good as the applicants that apply. But again, we do focus very much on that.
And if I may, through you, Michelle. Jamie and Rita, do these numbers represent the 2 FM1s that we've got posted right now?
The current posting?
For maintenance department, the ones we talked,
Do not. We actually have some active recruitments right now where we are hoping to even improve these numbers further.
exactly. So the
Yeah.
point is these numbers will hopefully go up with the recruitment of, we have 2 vacancies right now in maintenance. We just had 2 black males just took positions in water treatment, which is really an opportunity for them because they can grow. There's much more growth in the water treatment arena because a lot of our people are retiring, and we're struggling as an industry finding people that want to work in the water treatment and wastewater treatment facilities. So we just I won't say promoted, but they moved into the water treatment department in West Hartford and Bloomfield. So we're very happy about that. They're going to enter a training program with Gateway Community College, which we pay for, and it's going to help them get their license sooner. So they're excited. We're excited about that opportunity. So we're really focused, as Rita and Jamie said, we're really making an effort to be inclusive, to hire minorities and people of color.
With what Scott was saying, I made a list of the during the reporting period, the diversity hires that were made. After these numbers go through April, and as Scott said, recently we've improved on these numbers. So it is it's an effort that is consistent and continuing. And at the bottom of the page, I also noted the affirmative action goals that were met. And one of the positions I'm really proud of is the professional level trainee. We hired a black male with an engineering background for that position. So that's a professional position. And in the past, we've had difficulty recruiting for some of the engineering positions. So that's the fact that it's a professional level trainee will give a person of color an opportunity to come into this organization and grow with the organization. So if you look at some of the jobs we've hired for it, it really, I think, goes to the fact that we are looking at all positions, not just skilled craft or administrative support. We're looking at all positions in terms of letting people know in the community what is available, what the qualifications are, and also trying to find ways to help people, into these positions as well via like training or just to do internships. And we have offered internships consecutively every summer. And that has really, been an attempt to grow, the workers that we need today. Okay.
Yeah, so if I've got a new chart here in front of me. So if this is correct, correct me if I'm wrong, but for periods from May, right? May 8th to present. So from May to now, where that 35.7% is actually 44.4%. So we've made a concerted effort to really aggressively go after these candidates, and I would tell you that the young man that you mentioned, UConn graduate, engineering student, actually worked for us as an intern probably 3 or 4 years ago, and recruited him to come work here with us. So he's been a great addition to the workforce.
What kind of, we started a program going into high schools 5 years ago, 6 years ago. What's been the effect of that program relative? I assume it should be positive because we've exposed a whole lot of people to what we do.
Yes. So Jamie, we wanted to put this on the PPI agenda, obviously, for the Learn to Earn program every year. We do the Learn to Earn program, and we do the college intern program. We couldn't get it on the agenda, but hopefully next meeting we'll have it on the agenda. But once you talk about it.
Sure. So the Learn and Earn program is the program where we have high school students come to the MDC for 4 weeks. 2 weeks is instructional learning with some instructors we have, and then the remaining 2 weeks they're in the various departments. We have struggled. I don't believe have in our history of doing it over the last 5 years have hired anyone. So this year especially, we made some concerted efforts to really improve the outreach to the local, because it is specific to the municipalities that are the MDC. We've reached out to every school in that area to make sure they were picking kids who didn't necessarily want to go to college, because I think that's been the biggest hurdle is we are getting great students, but they're kids who already have their eyes set on college, and that's not necessarily what you need to be a good employee here at the MDC. So we really tried to focus on that. We had a smaller group this year. I think we had about 10, and we did have several in that group who are not planning to go to college. A couple did express interest. But again, we have to have those entry-level jobs that they can apply for. So
We did have 2 years of COVID, which
yeah,
which affected our success rate.
But what we offer with pensions, insurance, and
absolutely.
things like that for kids that don't go to college are significant.
Yeah.
When you look down the road and look at some of the people that we were, that are retiring now, that I can remember back 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we went with the federal program and brought a whole bunch of people online.
In 2009, when we were the Jobs Funnel, we partnered with MDC. 3 of the 15 participants in that program were hired by the MDC in 2009, and they are still employed with the MDC in 2023. I think one of the things that you need to, when you're doing your recruitment, and I can always be a resource, and I had discussed that with Rita already, pre-employment preparation is critical to keeping the job. Getting the job is okay, keeping the job. And the reason why they're still employed with the MDC 15 years later is because of the pre-employment preparation that we gave them before they started the job.
Right.
So, as a workforce development professional, I'd like to thank you. I appreciate both of your efforts. I know how difficult working in HR can be. So thank you so much.
no, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I might, Commissioner Hoffman, I'm not a member of the committee, but I'm sitting in as a commissioner. I have a question, I think, either for Scott or for Jamie. And that is, Scott, you mentioned before about an employee who has now become engaged in the water treatment area and is going on to a program at Gateway. So is there a number, maybe Jamie, you have this number somewhere, of the number of employees, current employees, who in fact are being directed to college programs or extension programs beyond their employment, that the MDC actually is underwriting to some degree? Is that a number that you can sort of pull out of the air?
I don't have the exact number because I don't want to misstate it, but we do have a tuition reimbursement program that is utilized throughout the MDC. I'm excited about these 2 individuals in the water treatment area because we don't often have it used in that way. Oftentimes it's people getting advanced degrees, people who already have degrees. But we do have people who maybe have an associate's who are working towards their bachelor's. So it is definitely something that is consistently utilized.
Through you, Madam Chairman, can we have this, I assume it's the next meeting of PP&I?
Yeah, I'd love to have this conversation at PPI. That'd be
And
great.
if we can bring up all the other things we've talked about here that you haven't put on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to have.
Was that because of the time period in this meeting, the PP&I put off because of the issue we have with the well, not flooding, not here in this committee. It was in the PPI committee before we got into the whole issue of pensions COVID and a whole bunch of other things, that there was supposed to be a follow-up meeting that would produce all of this, and it would be the
We're
next meeting.
Definitely happy to have
I
this.
would hope that that's the
Yes,
what's
we'll
gonna
definitely
happen.
have that at the next PPI meeting. This is important information. I mean, to say the least. I mean, a lot of success is happening here. To say that since May, we've achieved 44% hiring of 44% people of color. So that's real. I meet with Jamie and Rita every year with CHRO, and we consistently make promises. We're going to do better. We're going to do better, and we have. And these are facts, and they're really important to make the committees and the full board aware of the NBC's efforts. So we'll definitely put it on the agenda.
We should, because we should have done it today, but I didn't realize.
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
It was brought to my attention by the chairman that would be the next meeting that they would have.
So John, we'll make sure it gets on the
I have
agenda.
a question.
For the chairman,
Peter or Jamie, you can
he shared that with me, so.
Is NBC a second chance employer?
We are not.
However,
Doesn't mean that we don't hire people who have,
Returning citizens, that's a whole population
well,
of people that are qualified to work outside of your.
just to clarify, and I'll give you examples. We may not be as defined as a
We're not
second chance,
official.
but we have hired, and I know specifically of one individual who was an employee of ours, and he had got in some financial trouble, and he had to go to prison, and he had to resign because we can't have someone in prison. And there was an opportunity for him to come back. So, and there's multiple scenarios like that. And there's scenarios where we've hired people. The most important thing is that you don't lie in your application, right? As long as you don't lie in your application that you did, serve
So
time.
basically, my question is, a felony conviction won't prevent you from working at the
it
NBC,
does not preclude you, no.
your second chance company.
Yes.
We just don't have a
I
program.
know, but
Officially part of the programs. I know they do have specific programs for that, so.
your second chance.
Yeah.
Your second chance. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Any more general public comments? All right, Judy. Okay. I love when you comment.
This is Judy Allen, West Hartford. I can understand why the community is confused about certain things, because I was confused. I learned a lot here, and I come to every meeting, and I still hadn't understood a lot of this stuff. I wish we could hear more about the nuts and bolts of what's going to happen in the community in terms of this outreach. What is that really going to look like? So I just want to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Judy.
to a recommendation from Ms. Allen. So I just give us patience, right? Because remember what I've said before, the NBC was planning to spend $47 million over 10 years in this community, North Hartford. And we went from May till now to spend 170. So we are rushing through everything, but we will have a traffic program. We have a traffic plan that Julie and Mary run. The traffic program actually is live, and it actually tells you what's happening on the street on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So you understand traffic patterns, detours, all those things. But we will get there, and we will have a website that is factual, and you know exactly what's happening on that street for the construction.
You have
activity.
another question, Judy? Okay. Okay, good.
I gotta meet a plumber.
Any commissioner requests for future agenda items?
Covered that.
Yeah.
Oh, we did. Okay.
For the next
Yeah,
meeting.
PP9.
Yeah. Move.
Ask for somebody to adjourn. Somebody to make a motion to adjourn.
Can someone make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Adjourned. I'm getting it.